3,300 years ago, a merchant vessel sank off the coast of modern-day Israel. It sat completely undisturbed in the freezing darkness until just recently, when a deep-sea robot accidentally illuminated its cargo, hundreds of ancient, intact wine jugs half buried in the silt. That discovery was incredible, but it is pocket change compared to the holy grail of shipwrecks, the San Jose Galleon. Lying somewhere off the coast of Colombia, its rotting wooden hull holds an estimated $20 billion in gold, silver, and emeralds. When we hear about billions of dollars sitting on the ocean floor, our brains immediately jump to a simple childhood rule. If you have the gear, the guts, and the luck to find a lost treasure, you get to keep it. But surviving the crushing pressure of the deep ocean and hauling tons of heavy metal to the surface is actually the easy part. The moment that treasure breaks the surface and hits the open air, a massive legal apparatus activates. Dozens of lawyers representing foreign governments, historical descendants, and international heritage organizations immediately file injunctions to seize whatever you just pulled out of the water. Finders keepers does not apply in international waters. So if the person who pulls the gold from the sand doesn't automatically own it, who actually controls the billions hidden in the sea's ultimate bank vault? To understand how modern maritime salvage works, we have to look at Mel Fisher. In the late 1960s, he sold everything, moved to Florida, and spent 16 grueling years scanning thousands of miles of ocean floor for a specific Spanish galleon called the Nuestra Señora de Atocha. The search required an immense toll. In 1975, a sudden mechanical failure caused one of Fisher's salvage boats to capsize in the middle of the night. 3 people drowned, including his oldest son, Dirk, and his daughter-in-law, Angel. Despite the tragedy, Fisher refused to stop. A decade later, on July 20th, 1985, his crew detected an 80-foot trail of wreckage on the seabed. They had hit the mother lode, an estimated $500 million worth of heavy silver bars, ancient gold coins, and raw emeralds. But the celebration was cut short. The state of Florida immediately filed a claim, asserting that because the treasure was found in waters near their coast, the state owned every single coin and emerald. Fisher had to hire teams of lawyers and fight the state for years. The legal battles drained his remaining finances and dragged all the way to the highest court in the United States. In 1982, the Supreme Court ruled entirely in Fisher's favor, granting him full ownership of the Atocha's treasure. He had officially beaten the government. This highly publicized victory proved that ordinary citizens could secure billions from the sea, triggering a massive wave of corporate investment into deep-water salvage. Following Fisher's success, treasure hunting evolved from small teams of passionate divers into multi-million-dollar corporate enterprises. Companies like Odyssey Marine Exploration raised vast amounts of capital to deploy highly advanced research vessels that could scour the deep ocean with military-grade sonar. In 2007, Odyssey executed the Black Swan Project. Using robotic submersibles, they located the wreck of the Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes off the coast of Portugal and successfully hauled up 17 tons of silver coins. They flew the silver back to Florida, expecting a massive payday. Instead, the Spanish government sued them in U.S. federal court, claiming the treasure was stolen Spanish property. This initiated a bitter 5-year legal war. Odyssey's defense collapsed against a strict international legal principle known as sovereign immunity. This diagram illustrates the difference. If you find a privately owned merchant ship, salvage laws might apply, but the Mercedes was a flagged military frigate. Under sovereign immunity, a military vessel and everything on it remains the permanent property of its nation, no matter where it sinks or how long it stays there. The ruling was completely devastating. Odyssey had spent $2.6 million on the recovery operation. The court ordered them to box up all 17 tons of silver and ship it directly back to Spain, leaving the company with nothing but legal fees. The Black Swan case established a harsh reality. Finding a shipwreck in international waters does not erase a nation's historical claim. If a government flag flew on the mast, their lawyers will take the gold. Losing the Spanish silver forced Odyssey Marine to rethink their entire strategy. Instead of operating in secret and fighting governments in court after the fact, they decided to start working directly with them. They identified a new target, the SS Garsorpa. Torpedoed by a German U-boat in 1941, this British cargo ship was resting 3 miles below the surface of the North Atlantic, holding 48 tons of government-insured silver bullion. Before ever putting a boat in the water, Odyssey approached the UK Department for Transport. They negotiated and signed a binding commercial contract detailing exactly how the salvage would be split. Reaching the silver required staggering engineering. At 3 miles deep, human divers are completely useless. Odyssey had to rely on heavy-duty, remote-operated vehicles to make precision cuts into the ship's steel hull and carefully extract the bullion. The operation succeeded. Because they had an agreement in place, Odyssey legally kept 80% of the net salvaged value, securing millions of dollars in revenue without stepping foot in a courtroom. The era of the rogue treasure hunter is over. Today, the most successful salvage operations function as highly specialized government contractors. Securing an ironclad legal contract beforehand is far more valuable than pulling the treasure up first and asking questions later. Even with this modern framework of contracts and advanced robotics, the ocean floor remains the wealthiest museum on Earth, holding an estimated tens of billions of dollars in unreachable assets. Which brings us back to the San Jose Galleon. Its $20 billion cargo is perfectly mapped and well within the reach of modern submersibles. Yet the gold remains buried in the mud. That's because the wreck is paralyzed by an international standoff. As this map shows, Spain claims the ship under sovereign immunity. Colombia claims it because it lies within their territorial waters. Meanwhile, indigenous groups from Bolivia and Peru argue the silver was mined by their ancestors using forced labor, and it rightly belongs to them. The legal gridlock highlights a global shift in how we view these discoveries. Sunken cargo is no longer treated as raw currency waiting to be melted down and spent. It is fiercely guarded as national heritage, historical evidence, and cultural identity. The true test of a deep-sea discovery isn't the engineering required to lift it out of the abyss. The hardest part is navigating the endless human greed that waits at the surface. Mel Fisher used to motivate his crew every morning by telling them, "Today is the day." But looking at the lives lost and the endless lawsuits, that famous phrase feels less like an inspiring promise and more like a warning about the deadly allure of the deep.